Hello students, today we'll study first chapter of 11th class from Hornbill book. The chapter is The Portrait of a Lady and it's written by Khushwant Singh. In this video, we'll focus on the life of author in brief, then difficult words used in the chapter, then we'll see the bird's eye view of the chapter, means the brief summary. We'll also see the storyline, means the plot of the chapter, how it moves on, and different episodes mentioned over there. And finally, we'll see the theme on which the chapter is based and the moral it gives out. So to begin with, let's peep into the life of the author. Khushwant Singh was born on 2nd February 1915 in Hadali, which is now in Pakistan. And he died on 20th March 2014 at the age of 99 and missed by 1 year to complete his century. He died at his home in Delhi. He was an Indian author. If we talk about his profession, he started his profession being a lawyer. He went abroad, which is also mentioned in this chapter. He went abroad for the study of LLB. He took admission in King's College, London, and after the completion of his LLB, he came back to India and he started his practice in Lahore court. But after some time, he dropped that practice, even that profession itself, and he took on writing novels. He was a very renowned columnist also because he did journalism and he started journalism also. He was a very great columnist and his column Na Kahu Se Dosti, Na Kahu Se Bair has been a very renowned and very popular. And with the help of that column, he became famous among people. And he also rendered his services as a diplomat. So we can see his area of activity was very comprehensive and very diverse. That's why scholars call him the man of many talents. He has wrote many books. Few famous ones are Train to Pakistan, which is based on India and Pakistan division. Another beautiful novel, Delhi, The Company of Women, Truth, Love and a Little Malice. Malice means ill will against the people. The Good, the Bad and the Ridiculous. So these are the wonderful creations by Khushwant Singh, which made him very popular among the readers. Because of his services to the nation, to the humanity and to Hindi and English literature, he was awarded Padam Bhushan and Padam Vibhushan. If we talk about his philosophy of life, so he believed in secular outlook. He believed in free thinking, reasoning, scientific temper, modernity, and he loved tolerance in life. And because of these qualities, he was a true, honest, and straightforward human being. He had to pay a heavy toll because all the time, whatever he wrote and whatever he said was just factual in form, and he came into limelight. Limelight in the way he became controversial. Whatever he said and wrote became controversial. So we can say that he was a man of controversies also. Now we'll be having the bird's eye view of the chapter. So in this chapter we'll see that Khushwant Singh, actually this chapter is autobiographical account of his personal life. So he's shown when he was a school going child. His father was a contractor, which is not mentioned in the chapter by the way. So he was a contractor, and because of his business purpose and business, that professional obligation, he had to move from village to city and settle over there. So when Khushwant Singh's parents moved to city, he was left behind with his grandmother And during his stay with grandmother, he found that his grandmother was very good friend and a very caring lady. Later on, when Khushwant Singh's parents well settled in the city, they were called to city house. Over there, while grandmother and Khushwant Singh were living in a village, so grandmother used to help in all the spheres of his activities, like waking him up in the morning, then preparing him for the school, then going to the school, preparing food for him, and she even taught him the lessons. But when they went to city, over there the author was put into the English medium school. Grandma did not know English. When author came from school, she used to ask him about what he had studied and all. And when he answered in English and told about the subject, she felt defeated because she couldn't understand. So obviously there came a gap between the friendship of grandma and the grandson. Later on, after completing his schooling and college study at that home country, he was sent abroad where he did his LLB in King's College London, as I have already told. After completion of his LLB from London, he returned to India, and his return, which is claimed to be the homecoming, his return was celebrated enthusiastically and passionately by grandmother with zeal and jest. And at last we'll see that grandmother leaves this world. She dies. So now let's see the storyline of the chapter. We'll pick up episodes and then move on. Grandmother, as she's shown in the picture, very old. She's very old and she's having wrinkled face. Her face is full of lines and folds. Author says that grandmother used to tell us about, sometimes she used to share her childhood experiences with us, and he says that it was an unbelievable idea, revolting idea. The word and phrase written in the book is revolting idea. He says, actually, I had been watching grandmother from close since last 20 years, and there was hardly any physical change in the lady. So how could I believe that she had been a child once upon a time? This I couldn't digest. This I couldn't believe. And that's why he says that grandmother should not speak these things to we people, because we used to take whatever she told as fable. Fable is actually the story of animals and birds, which is fictional, which is brainchild of the emotion itself, imagination only. So he says that we used to think whatever grandma was telling was just imaginational, bearing no truth at all. And he says that it was undignified on grandmother also. She should not have told all these things which are not suitable to her, which cannot be believed in. Then he tells something about his grandfather also. By the way, these pictures are just representatives, they are not the real ones, but to have a pictorial impact, I've just collected these pictures. So he says that grandfather also was as old as grandmother, and his photo was hanging on the wall just up above the mantelpiece. Mantelpiece actually, in earlier days when electricity was not there, the room heaters was not in fashion, so people used to warm their room in winter by burning fire, kindling fire into the oven. It was an oven covered from sides and it was having a slab on the top. So that fireplace inside the house and its top part, which contains slab, is known as mantelpiece. So he says that the photo was hanging over there and grandfather appeared as if he could have only grandchildren. He could not be young once upon a time. He could not have wife also. He could not have children. He could only have grandchildren. His age was suitable for having only grandchildren. And he was wearing a big turban, by the way, over here. This is small one, and long white beard which used to cover the best part of his chest. It flowed down the chest and covering almost all the chest. So this he tells about his grandfather. Moving to next, we are told about author's stay in village with grandmother. When Khushwant Singh's parents shifted to city, he was left behind with grandmother only. So grandmother always used to wake him up in the morning and then used to prepare him for the school. And while preparing for the school, he says that to prepare him for the school, she used to give him bath. She used to prepare food for him. She used to make bundle of ink pot, pen, and put into the bag. This is how she used to always prepare. She also used to wash his wooden slate and apply yellow chalk on it so that author could use for next writing purpose. And we are told that earthen ink, it is used in the lesson. Earthen ink you can see over here. Nowadays we are having either plastic made containers or we have that glass containers to contain ink in. But earlier days, those ink pots were made up of either clay or soil. So earthen ink pot, and then the reed pen. Actually in chapter it is written red pen, which is meaningless over here. It's not red pen, students. This is reed pen. So please correct the spelling of red into reed. Reed pen. Reed is actually a bamboo like bush having thin stems which are like bamboo itself. You can see having hard outside crust and hollow inside. So the students of older days used to make pen with those reed stems and use them to write on the wooden slate. Once they were ready, then both grandmother and grandson, they used to leave for school, and grandmother accompanied the author from home to school and way back to home. The author says that school and the temple, they both were adjacent. They were very close by, sharing the boundary wall. So when author went to school, grandmother used to go to temple. While author was being taught by the teachers over there, grandmother used to study the scriptures and the holy books over there. Once the day job was over, they started and took their way back to home. On the way, they always found the street dogs, and he says that grandmother always used to carry food for the dogs also, and she fed them. When she threw chapatis to the dogs, it was a beautiful sight. Like all the dogs tried to get the best part of the food and they started howling, growling and fighting among themselves. In this way, they chased both of us to our home. So this was how when they were in the village. Now when the parents settled in the city, they were called to city house. And he says that from there it starts a little bit different. What is that difference? First setback to their friendship. We'll understand that there came a gap between that bond of the friendship between grandma and the grandson. Grandma couldn't help the author. Why this happened? What were the certain factors which started influencing the friendship between the author and the grandma? In village, the author was reading in a Hindi medium school, but in city he was sent to an English medium school. So grandmother could not understand English. Then don't know about science. He was taught science subjects. When he returned from school, came back from school, so grandmother, as usual, as it was very usual with grandmother, when they returned from school, she used to ask what he had studied in the school and used to help him in his lessons also. The same way as it was her habit, she used to ask him about the homework and what he was taught in the school. So he used to give her answer like he was taught Archimedes principles and gravitational force and all these things in English, and grandmother couldn't understand even a single word of that. So he felt defeated and felt helpless. She couldn't help anymore in his homework. Then second thing was, she came to know that in city school there was no teaching of God and scriptures, which was a very saddening point from grandmother's point of view and for grandmother. Then one day she was told that the author, her grandson, was also given lessons in music also. He was being taught music also, and this was a big jolt to the grandma, because grandma was having a very negative attitude towards music and all. She used to think that music is the monopoly of the harlots. Monopoly means singly adopted by. Only harlots used to have the single right on music. Harlots means the bar dancers and all those people, low in character, prostitutes and all those. So she used to think that prostitutes, harlots and bar dancers, these type of the people only opt for the musical field. This is not for the gentle folk and the good people. From the day she came to know about that author was taught music lessons, she stopped talking to the author. And it created the first gap between grandma and the grandson. Now she still, but one thing was there, they still were living in the single room. Now moving to next, we come to know about the second setback, another jolt to their friendship. What was that? The author sent to university. When he completed his schooling, he was sent to college. When he was sent to college, obviously he needed more focus on academics, less disturbance while studying. So now he was given a separate room. So the common link between the two also snapped at this point, and gap between the two increased further. This was the second setback, you can say, second phase. So grandma started living in isolation. She resigned from all the homely activities. She stopped doing anything at home, and she focused only on three things. The whole day revolved around three activities. Throughout the day, from morning till evening, from dawn to dusk, she used to pray. Always she could be seen with the rosary in hand and telling the beads, counting the beads of that one. Second thing, she used to spend most of the time spinning over the spinning wheel. And third thing, during the noon time, 30-40 minutes or almost 1 hour, this much time she used to spend with the sparrows, because in village she used to feed the dogs and she couldn't find any dog over here in the city, so she took on feeding sparrows. So every day sparrows came on the decided time, and she used to break the chapati into crumbs and used to feed the sparrows. And there was such a beautiful bond between the lady and the sparrows. It was a treat to behold that sight, as per the author's eyes. He says that sparrows used to come and settle on his body, on head, shoulder, hands, and almost all parts of the body. And the lady felt very happy, but whenever they started troubling the lady more and more, so grandmother used to show off the false anger, rebuked, frivolous rebuke. The word used over here is frivolous rebuked. She tried to shoo them off with the frivolous rebuke. Means she used to show off the false anger and shout at them to make them a little bit moved away. So in this way, she used to spend her rest of the days. Now, we'll see the third setback to their friendship. So after the college was over, author was sent abroad. He was sent England to study his LLB in King's College. So when the day came for the author to fly to abroad. It was a very, that emotional scene for everybody over there. An author says that I believed my grandmother would not be able to sustain this jolt and shock, but on the contrary of his thinking, she proved her mettle. She did not cry. She did not show any sign of overwhelming emotions. And he says that day also, I could see my grandmother was busy in telling the beads of the rosary and she was continuing with her prayer. So finally, they went to the railway station where they had to see of the author who would be going to the airport and flying for abroad. So there he looked at grandmother and he says that I thought that was the last meeting with grandmother because she was so old and he had to spend 3 to 5 years over there to complete his academics. So the grandmother moved forward without speaking even a single word. She held the author in her arms and kissed his forehead. And says that, Khushwant Singh says that, I took that moist imprint on my forehead as the most treasured moment. I treasured that memory into my heart. I cherished that moment into my heart. The reason being, I was not sure whether I'll meet my grandmother again or not. That's why I say that it was a unique moment for me and the most precious moment. So she embraced and kissed the author. The author took it to be the last possible meeting, and in this way, the gap between the friendship increased further. Now, the author says that after the completion of his LLB, he returned to India. Homecoming of the author, and he was surprised to see that grandmother was there to receive him. He was there to see him off, and she was there to receive him on the station. And that day he says that we saw the unprecedented behavior of her. What was that? Unprecedented? It had never happened earlier. It was first time that she stopped prayer. Then she invited women from the neighborhood. She called all the ladies from the surrounding locality and she played a dilapidated drum and sang homecoming. Dilapidated drum, she just took one drum, a dholak, which was old and damaged, dilapidated, old and damaged. And she started playing that drum and started singing, and the chorus was given by the neighboring women. She started singing fervently, with a zeal and zest, enthusiastically. Family members persuaded not to strain her that much. When all the people in the family saw that grandmother was working very hard in this celebration, they said that, please stop, grandma. This is not good for your health. If you overstrain yourself, if you work hard more than your capacities, you'll fall sick. But she ignored their appeal and continued celebrating. And as a result, as they were afraid of, she fell sick. So they called for the doctor, but grandmother denied the treatment because she could listen to the footsteps of death and they were approaching closer every passing moment. She knew that it was her last moment and was near. So in place of doing anything else, she focused on the prayers. She wanted to surrender her life in a very devotional way. So she continued praying and telling the beads of the count, and then author says that suddenly the rosary fell from her fingers and a pallor spread over her face, and we knew she was no more. She left for her heavenly abode. And then we see the mourning by the sparrows. Morning, you can see the spelling M-O-U-R. This is not that good morning and all we wish. This means to express sorrow and sadness over the death of somebody. We know that grandmother used to feed the sparrows, and Khushwant Singh tells us, don't know how the sparrows came to know about the death of grandmother. They came, but that day they did not create any noise. They flew into house silently, sat scattered in the veranda from where they could have a look of the dead body which was kept on the stretcher. You can see over here, this is the representative picture itself. By the way, in the chapter we are told that the dead body of grandmother was covered in the red shroud, but I couldn't find a picture of the red shroud though, so I just picked up this one only. And the wooden stretcher on which the dead body is kept is called stretcher. Crude stretcher means it was made by the unskilled people. So they sat scattered in the veranda, and when author's mother, Khushwant Singh's mother, saw the sparrows, she thought that sparrows had come for the food itself, because it was the time when grandmother used to feed them. So she went inside, brought some chapatis, broke them into pieces the way grandmother used to do, and threw in front of the sparrows. But Khushwant Singh tells us that it was a very startling moment for everybody over there. None of the birds looked at the crumbs. They did not pay any attention. They did not seem to be interested in those crumbs. It was clear they hadn't come to eat food that day. They had come to express their sorrow at the death of grandmother, because their beloved had departed. They wanted to bid their last farewell to the great soul. They ignored the food thrown to them, and when the family members proceeded for the funeral procession, when they lifted the body for the crematory rites and all, so the sparrows flew away silently. It is a very appealing, very emotional scene. We can see the birds even know what love is there. Animals and birds, they understand only one language, students, and that is the language of love. Love has that power which can lift an animal up to the level of God, not human beings, even beyond them. Now, this was the chapter. Important question can be the character sketch of grandmother, because the whole lesson revolves around grandmother only. So what type of the character grandmother is? After reading, we can see she is very old, and very old it is known through puckered face. She walks in the bending position. She is said to hobble into the house. She holds her stoop with placing, that one hand to the waist, and on another hand she is holding the walking stick. You can see in the picture over here also, she is holding her stoop also. Then white hair. She was completely old, that very old, and there wasn't not gray hair. She was having white hair. We call gray hair when we have white and black, mixture of the white and black hair, but over here she is mentioned to be just having white, snow white hair. So from head to toe she was having white hair, and she was in habit of putting on neat and clean white clothes only. That's why she is called to be the stretch of pure white serenity. Stretch of pure white serenity means she was calm and quiet, and she was pure at heart, and she used to put on white clothes and having white hair. So her look is compared to the landscape which is covered by snow. Hygiene lover, she always put on neat and clean clothes also. True friend of the author, waking him up in the morning, preparing for school, and accompanying him to and from school. So traditional thinker, another aspect of her character is doesn't appreciate the modern education, then strong believer in the study of the scriptures, and hates music and dance. This was the traditional thinking, because of traditional thinking only. Then religious, she was very religious lady, because all the while she feeds either the street dogs in village, and in city she feeds the sparrows and keeps praying all the while, and she is very loving also, that's why. And the strong part of her personality, we can see the iron will in her. When author thinks that grandmother would will break down, she did not break down emotionally, rather she kept her calm and composure, and bid him farewell, and received him with the same amount of love and enthusiasm. So this way we can write down about the character sketch of grandmother. Moving to next is theme of the lesson. So the portrait, the lady, has a theme of innocence, friendship, love, connection, kindness, selflessness, respect, and acceptance. So this story is revolving around all these things, which has been brought out with the help of that depiction of grandma and grandson. So very much, if anything, both have close and loving friendship. It has been the theme of the chapter. Now, next part is the moral. So the story portrays grandson's perception of his grandmother and how their bond of love undergoes changes. As we have discussed, three different phases where gap increased between them. So the moral of the story, as a moral we can have, the story puts light on the need of companionship and friendship felt by our elders. This is the underlining fact, students. Nowadays, when we see the mushrooming old age homes, this is a black spot on the head of our culture. Old people are God. They are not to be left into the old age homes. This is our moral responsibility to adore them, to love them, to understand them, and to live with them only. If you have truly understood this chapter, you can't do what people are doing by sending their parents into old age homes. This is the demand of the time. This lesson must be understood by each and every one, and the result would be closure of all the old age homes. So this was the chapter. I hope you got the concept. Now if any doubt, you just watch it all over again, make your notes and understand it in and out. That's all for now. We'll see you with another video. Till then, take care. Bye bye.